Hello, and welcome to the Dynamic Man Experience, a podcast dedicated to men who want to become the 10.0 version of themselves through mastering the three key relationships of mindset, money, and the many people in their lives, creating long lasting, deep connections and trusted bonds for real appreciation and understanding.
Fast forward many years, the coaching work that I do is mostly one-on-one, and I've got a container that was initially years ago going to be co-ed, but for
Right.
whatever reason, only men showed up. And so I took that as a cue from source or the universe that the men needed help. And so there's this other space I like to serve in as well, is helping men stand more firm in their foundation. What I'm hearing in this is that I, as ego, need to find a way of respecting who I, as ego, is. And one of my favorite quotes was from one of the greatest Indian saints, Sri Ramana Maharshi.
Okay.
He said, "Your self-realization is the greatest service you can render to the world." And what I hear in that is, as we deepen on the spiritual path and find out who we truly are beyond the mask, and we unfold into the truth of our being, how could you not have respect? Well, I think a lot comes from our conditioning early on. We're, at least speaking from my own experience, I was raised by parents who, God bless them, were doing the best they could with what they knew. They were just parroting all of the limiting beliefs that they had learned from when they were young.
And
What I hear is awareness. You say, do the work.
absolutely.
Yeah, doing the work, being able to become more of an observer. It keeps coming back up in my awareness. I'm hearing a really relevant quote from Alvin Toffler.
Aye.
And he said, "In times of change, the learners inherit the world, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped for a world that no longer exists." The learned being those that already have all the answers.
Today's episode is with Mr. Haines from theconsciousbeast.com, where he believes there's more to you than you think. He also believes modern science is catching up with ancient wisdom. That's an interesting outlook. That's a very interesting outlook. He really believes you are capable beyond comprehension. And the question is really, are you ready to meet that version of yourself, that better version of yourself? He really believes in next level coaching. He's been coached by the best and he likes to pass it on. This is next level coaching for men ready to lead with clarity, presence, and power. Real power. Their own power. Hello, Mr. Haines. How are you doing today?
So
Good to have you.
good to be with you, Mr. Murphy. Glad we created some space to be together.
Exactly. Know you were out there traveling in space for a while. Where did you go? How did you get on?
Yeah, I've got a really beautiful house I built on a lake down in Costa Rica. And those lands have been holding a really special place in my heart for the last 10 years. And I got to take my boys down for a little over a month, their summer vacation.
Bet they
It's just beautiful.
They didn't want to leave today.
That's the interesting thing, because I see how much they're attached to all of the things here with mom. And it's just a different world that they live in, and so I can appreciate the contrast in the way that their play changes down there. So it took them a few days to kind of get into what is this new world, and I definitely feel that it leaves a lasting impact.
Yeah. On a lake, man. Yeah. Surrounded by jungle.
Yep, it's beautiful.
They must have seen some stuff they've never seen. Yeah.
I'd say, yeah. The creatures of the jungle are much different than they are up here in the desert. you know.
Are they different though? I live on an island in Massachusetts, and we were laughing during the week. The news was some guy caught a shark, and the shark bit him on the beach, and he was medevaced out of here. And we're like, what kind of an idiot gets bitten by a shark on land? But then you look around and you go, there's a lot of sharks living in the houses here, so it's quite apt, you know what I mean?
Funny.
Oh, Mr. Hayes, tell me a little bit about your work. I think we're in the same world, really, aren't we?
Yeah, I've been in the coaching space for many, many years. Coaching absolutely changed my life. I was coached by some of the best in the country for 6 years straight
Wow.
and was like a rocket ship ride of evolution.
Yeah, yeah,
I did some work in the realms of spirit, you could say, and I got into a little bit of men's work early on with Sacred Sons. And, fast forward many years, the coaching work that I do is mostly one on one. And I've got a container that was initially years ago going to be co ed, but for
right.
whatever reason, only men showed up. And so I took that as a cue from Source or the universe that the
Yeah.
men needed help. And so there's this other space I like to serve in as well, as helping men stand more firm in their foundation.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there, man. It's like women have much more connection to that kind of stuff. We tend to get caught up in our own heads and isolate ourselves and then wonder why the whole world is against us. The whole world doesn't even know you exist because you just clammed up, man.
Mm. Yeah.
Everyone I talk to, every woman I talk to about the work, they're like, yeah, yeah, guys really need it. So like the support is there, man. And women are challenging us to do the work. Mm, we're kind of resisting. There's a lot of resistance. You find that as well?
I certainly think that there's sizable portion of the male population that is closed off to growth, closed off to new ideas, new concepts. And I'm not sure where that comes from. Maybe this idea of if I let go of what I think that I know, then that's unknown and that's scary. And who am I?
Yeah.
Or maybe I need to look like I have it all together and put on this polished persona so people think that I have worth as a man.
Yeah.
And then I see the other people that are just like, yeah, my ways are not working. I need to change X, Y, and Z. I'm open. I'm ready to be led in my expansion journey.
Exactly. I was out last night with a couple of friends. There's a comedy festival on here at the moment. Two of them are stand-up comedians. One of them he's gone out there and he's kind of deviated from the comedian path, and he's doing a one-man show of his life story and his family life story, which is very interesting. I think comedians, and we look at these guys telling funny stories, but like they are men that are willing to be open and vulnerable and tell the world about it, and we love them. It's amazing. It really is amazing, like to see how a crowd like last night in the full theater are just totally focused on listening,
Mm.
but to do it ourselves, whoa, even to speak in public, even the thought of getting up on that stage is like, wow. Some guys would, what's the biggest fear, isn't it? Public
Mhm.
speaking.
Yeah.
And even last weekend, that we had a ceremony for my friend who died on the beach and scattered his ashes. But one of the guy who spoke most eloquently and told the best story about this friend, told me afterwards that he was so uncomfortable. He really hated. I was like, man, you spoke so well. You spoke the best of anyone in that circle, but he still felt that pounding. And he's quite open as well with his wellness and his experiences and his emotions. Even hear that, from guys that are doing the work. Still that fear, man. Um,
From your perspective, where do you think that comes from?
I think we think that people are thinking about us while they don't even think about themselves. So, like, why would they even think about us? We think that they're thinking about us. They're not even thinking about themselves. Running around like blue ass flies. The inner work is the furthest thing. For me, I think it's the final frontier, really, for us men is like going and doing this work, and it's like it's so hard to get them to work up the courage. You know, it's almost like that newspaper ad that Shackleton put in the paper in London like 100 years ago. You know, we're not going to. You might die. There's no money involved, but you can do it for the honor. I think we almost have to like attack this as expedition. It's like Lewis and Clark, man. You know, we have to like say, man, this is the adventure of your life, and if you're saying no, you're going to. This is going to like really hit you hard as you're taking your last breaths, man. So drop that drop that pair of balls now and just go for it. I think we just have to be fearless in how we encourage men to do the work. Like you just went on a month-long expedition adventure with your boys, man, and it's like you remember that for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
Just imagine that like being, you know, like releasing so much of the crap and stuff that in your head that holds you back, keeps you down. It's the carousel that's not a carousel in our heads, but we make it into a loop. We make it into a carousel. Like the idea is just circling and circling and circling. It's like, lads, this is a road. This is a railway track. Just let it in one ear and out the other. Why are we holding this? Why are we minding this? Hoarding this crap in our heads. We're actually hoarders, man.
What do you think that comes from? We just get addicted to what's known, what's comfortable.
There's one friend back in Ireland, and when you'd be out with him, he would tell you stories, and he'd open you up, and then you'd tell him a few stories. But then the next time you were out, he would like use those stories to make fun of you in the rest of the circle. You know what I mean? Um, not in a malicious way, but it was ammunition for the way his humor worked. And I think it's got something to do with that. If we give people ammunition, they will use it.
Well, then should we be taking better inventory of the people that we're choosing to spend our time with?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think really it comes down to that. Maybe our standards are not what they should be.
Because what I hear the opposite is if we had the right people around us and we shared from a truly authentic, real place,
Yeah.
but we had the right people who could feel into that story and help us elevate beyond versus, like you said, use ammunition to poke at you.
Yeah. Definitely. I suppose that as we grow and evolve, we do kind of elevate our standards somewhat, but I don't think we have necessarily the self belief or the self respect to do that until we do the work. Once we do the work, then we see the standards. We see the standard that we need to rise to. Maybe we're operating on a low tide when we should be operating on the high tide. And I think just doing the work really elevates your standards, elevates your mind. And you can look back at these kind of friends then and say, okay, what purpose did they serve when you were being vulnerable or open about your experiences? It can either shut you up or it can actually make you look at yourself and say, okay, why am I being triggered by this? And
What
yeah,
what I hear is awareness. You say, do the work.
absolutely.
Yeah, doing the work, being able to become more of an observer.
Yeah, and just accepting ourselves. I think that's the first step, really. We need to accept that, okay, shit goes on in our head, man. But is it real or are we just making stuff up? Like, I saw some crazy stat like that 90% of what goes on in our head today was the same as yesterday and the day before. Over time, like 50% of what we thought happened didn't really happen at all. So we are like churning this narrative over in our heads of make believe. Imagine uh, shit didn't happen, and that's why I think funerals and death serve us in a positive way if we can be receptive to it in triggering memories that actually happened. Triggering conversations that actually happened and triggering positive influences like my friend who died, gave me like plenty of insights into life that have like enabled me to create really positive memories. So, he was a good friend, always positive, always his philosophy in life was to thine own self be true. So like when you have conversations with a guy like that, he's challenging you. he's not judging you, and he's really kind of picking out like avenues to explore, positive in a positive way, you know. So you're right. You really have to be so selective in the people you let into your life. Are they helping you along your journey? If they're not, then figure out like how they're not, why they're not, and make an adjustment. Like, is that a sign that you're off your beaten path, off your righteous path, you know? Yeah, man. It's very interesting. Everyone serves a purpose that comes into your life.
I think that's a more productive way of looking at it too. I'm just kind of backing up to the part of the conversation where I said, should we change our circle? Should we change the people around us?
Yeah.
And, that's one option. And the other option could be to look at how this person that I have around me that's poking at me
Yeah.
and causing triggers
Yeah.
to come up for me actually could be really good medicine if I perceive it the right way. It could be massively expansive.
Exactly. And it can definitely trigger you to start looking at doing the work. Yeah. Look, I think guys get caught up in their own heads so much that they really believe their own propaganda against themselves. I'm not good enough. People won't like me. What will people think of me? I hate my own voice. It goes on and on. Like it's like an endless list of parts of themselves that they just don't like, you know? It adds up to a whole. So yeah, for me, really, it's just like triggering guys with letting go of something fast, giving them a feeling of relief, taking a weight off their mind. And then you really have to act fast. You can't act slow with men. You got to act fast and keep the momentum going because they'll just slip back into their ways, you know. And it's too easy to slip back into their ways. Some guys are like so structured in their beliefs. It's like earthquake proof, you know, their self defense system. Um, that's something that's so delicate, man. I really, really have to like tiptoe around guys like that.
What do you think the cost is for some of these brothers that are so rigid and unwavering and closed off in their belief systems?
Loneliness, lack of purpose, lack of meaning, lack of interaction, integration with people. They deny themselves relationships that would absolutely help them on their journey. They don't make the connections because they're so wary or like, you know, that person had an angry reaction to me, you know, kind of thing. Like, why do you think that was? You know, maybe they're having issues at home. Maybe they're having health problems. Maybe someone just died. You don't know. But like, until you start talking and opening up and just bring in your energy, you know, I think guys, they harness their own energy, man. You know, yeah, it's very interesting to see it. So many guys really buy into that. But when you show them the power of being open, it's like science fiction to them, man. You know, they don't believe it. It's like a fairy tale for adults. People actually like men that are open and friendly and funny, reaching out on other people's levels because you're reading the cues that people give you. Know.
You had mentioned showing them how powerful it can be to be open. What have been some of the methods or ways or techniques that you've used to help the people that you work with?
I think just showing them that I've made many mistakes, man. I've messed up. I still mess up, but that's life, you know. It really is. I think showing people how to laugh at yourself, how to be an idiot in public, how to overcome that fear of hearing what people think by the willingness. And I think men have lost the ability to laugh at themselves, which I think as an Irish person is like probably one of the most mentally healthy things that you can do because it means that you are impervious to the judgments and criticisms of other people because you can just laugh it off. Yeah, I'm an idiot. So what? Who isn't? No one perfect, you know.
So, for the man that's so locked up and afraid of judgment of others, like what does it look like to begin to coax them out of that fear? Is it a big shift
It's
within
massive.
that
It's
needs to
massive.
be is it, or is it like let's just go try something that's just a little bit past my edge?
Some like the extreme guys are like they're almost possessed. It's almost like when you're probing and trying to get to root causes or whatever. It's like it's, you can see them like almost twisting in their own bodies. The ego is so powerful. So it's really a question of like how well can you read the ego? See, like, I was working with a guy recently and it was just a case of he believed something so strongly that wasn't so, but it was part of his like you have to go full Vegas hotel demolition on their belief structure, knock it to the ground and rebuild it in their own powerful fashion. I think, yeah, look, it's for some guys it's a very delicate process. Every guy is different.
I hear delicate
Yeah,
because everything that likely they have built in their lives that is surrounding them was created from a certain way of believing in and seeing the world. And so
yeah,
this Vegas demolition, I would imagine, feels really destabilizing.
absolutely, absolutely. But I think it comes from a fear of love, actually. They fear the word love. They fear the emotion of love. They've been so, I suppose they believe starved of love that they don't even believe it's possible getting them to come around to the fact that they can love themselves, man. Everything was for a reason, and like they are where they are today because of who they are. And I was listening to a couple of Navy SEALs talking about like the meaning of life, and they were saying that whatever their base is in Virginia or whatever, there's a bar there where they all go, and one of the walls, that question is, what is the meaning of life? And the overall consensus from all these guys that have pushed their life and willpower to the maximum, the overall consensus really is like self-respect is the meaning of life. And I think for guys, that is probably the toughest thing right now. Is finding the ability to have respect for who they are, what they are, where they are. And I think that is the process.
What I'm hearing in this is that I, as ego, need to find a way of respecting who I, as ego, is. And one of my favorite quotes was from one of the greatest Indian saints, Sri Ramana Maharshi.
Okay.
He said, "Your self realization is the greatest service you can render to the world." And what I hear in that is as we deepen on the spiritual path and find out who we truly are beyond the mask, and we unfold into the truth of our being, how could you not have respect?
Guys, seriously, there has never, ever been a better time in the whole of history to be a man. There's a big challenge, no doubt whatsoever. But how are we rising to this challenge? What are we doing about it? That's why I'm here. That's why I do this work. It's never been a better time, ever, to be a man. Let's get on it. This is it. This is it. You know what I mean? That's a really powerful quote, man. Really powerful. And I think a lot of guys just they can't see over their own barrier. It is, you know, a self-raised barrier. I think the work that we're doing is in the very early stages of the hockey curve, the learning curve. In 100 years' time, we're going to be so far down the road with men's emotional mastery, discipline, the way we talk to ourselves, how we set our standards at a younger age, and just command presence with who we are. For thousands of years, we've been a certain way, the warrior, the hunter gatherer. And I think we're in a very transitional period for men, which is actually, I believe, the best time ever to be a man because the tools at our disposal now, as regards the knowledge of the mind, how it works, positioning that we want in society, or whatever you want to call it. It's up to us to decide. People are waiting, women are waiting, kids are waiting, everyone's waiting for men to step up, step into themselves. And like with the advent of AI and prompt engineering, we really have to improve the way we prompt engineer our own unconscious mind. And I think like AI is for me, it's emphasizing the need to really tap into our natural intelligence rather than tag along after AI. This is it for us guys. This is it. We have to do the work. There's no two ways about it. Now is the time. We've waited all this time. We've kicked the can down the road, and it's time. It's time to do the work, man. AI is going to kick our ass unless we do it. I talked to another guy a few weeks back about the way he sees AI, and it's like very interesting. It's like, are we going to like look through the crack in the door, see what AI is all about, with our limiting beliefs, and the emotions we carry, the way we, our self-defense mechanism? Are we going to do the inner work, open the doors to this new dimension and like skin the glow of the superconscious? Or are we just going to stay small? So, yeah, look, I think it's very interesting times to be a man. Most men are crawling on their bellies, man. So if you do a small bit of work and stick your head up, suddenly, you're like in the top 5 or 8 or 10% of men. People notice that. People notice that energy, man.
It keeps coming back up in my awareness. I'm hearing a really relevant quote from Alvin Toffler.
Aye.
And he said, in times of change, the learners inherit the world, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped for a world that no longer exists. The learned being those that already have all the answers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the call now is for man to expand, to embrace his edges, embrace his unknown, step more deeply into the depths of his being so that he can be of greater service to himself and those around him and the world at large.
Yeah, I really believe that, I mean, I think the world is suffering from a vacuum of strong men right now. We don't have the leaders we need. We don't have the people to step into the void. We don't have people saying, "No, stop." We're going the wrong direction here, guys. And that's everywhere. That's everywhere, man. So I saw it at home in Ireland at Christmas. It's like, what's going on? No one is listening. People are just doing what they want. It's chaos. And if you were to list the 10 strongest leaders in the world today, I think that would be nearly a blank page, man.
Yeah.
So we've never been more needed at a very influential crossroads in human existence. If they're saying that AI is going to be all this, one of the greatest transitional periods in human history, printing press, internet, all that kind of stuff, here we are. We're not prepared.
There's some that would say they believe there's a war on masculinity, conscious war on masculinity. What do you have to say about that?
I would say is probably more like a conscious surrender of masculinity.
So man is surrendering, he's choosing to give up
Yeah.
his dynamic power.
It seems to me that way, the war is over and the damage is done. We've like retreated, how many times I hear, "Oh, I just rather be single." Really? You know? I think that anytime I've been challenged by a woman, it almost feels like an affront. But like if you rise to the challenge, good things happen, you know what I mean? I think that most guys are in that affront stage when it comes to being challenged by women. Women want better men. 60% of college graduates are now female. That's like a huge turnaround in 40 years. It was the other way around 40 years ago. Now women are more qualified, maybe they have higher standards and they're challenging guys to be better. They want more from guys. And
Do you feel that's being birthed from this feeling within the feminine that we don't trust today's man to be able to hold us and to provide and to protect. And that because that quality is lacking in men, I, as woman, need to make sure that I'm independent and can take care of myself.
I think there's a certain element of truth in that, but also it's natural evolution. We are growing exponentially. It's technology, it's medicine, it's knowledge, it's guys out there, women out there, like pushing the boundaries of health and fitness and conscious mind, unconscious mind. So there's never been so much to digest. And I think for guys, it's like a general lack of awareness. We like what we like, sports, beer, women, it's very simple. And I don't think that we have come to accept that we're not as simple as we think. Too much going on in our heads. We don't like to think about it. And I think we're falling a bit behind that way. So, of course, yeah, women want more, they see it. They do their yoga retreats. They talk to each other about their emotions. We slink off to the garage or something and fiddle with our tools and what have you. We just go and meet our buddies and we have a beer. We don't talk about anything. We just want to forget everything. It's time. It's just time for men to have a look inside, man. That's it. Like if you see the rise of different influencers and how people gravitate to them in thousands, without necessarily being a good influence.
Mm.
And like, what's that about? There's a vacuum. There is a vacuum, and I think guys are struggling with the challenge. We still want to, stay the way we are. It's enough. But, like the rate of suicide in guys from 35 to 50, the extent of alcoholism, drug use. I know guys here, like they're making millions, but they're still drinking like they were 20 years old in their 50s. Like, what's that about?
Mm.
Successful, but you're like,
Well,
you're drinking.
successful on one dimension, what
Yeah,
you're saying. They've amassed piles of cash,
yeah.
but there's something else, some void.
Yeah, like it's Robin Sharma puts it really well. He reckons there's 8 levels of wealth. Money is just one of them. So like health, soul, heart, everything. There's layers to everything. And like when you reach one level of success and you're not like rising the other 6 or 7 levels, of course you're not going to feel, I was having breakfast this morning with two very successful guys, although one guy pulled out of his executive position maybe 10, 15 years ago, was talking about someone who was working under him having a like prime house on the waterfront in Nantucket here, and like he's barely paying off his house back in New Jersey. But like he saw something 15 years ago that that lifestyle wasn't for him. It wasn't helping him health wise, mindset wise, heart wise. He definitely feels more true to himself with less money. I think we get caught on the track, man. The track to success is money, and when we don't feel that making millions is really fulfilling or satisfying, of course we're going to turn to cocaine and alcohol. You know, 30 years after you should have given it up, man. Then
Is
where's
it is it the high that's being chased? Do I need to in that moment I feel this kind of space of bliss, or is it there's this uncomfortable void that I'd rather not look at, and I'm going to take this substance because I get this temporary escape from that feeling?
I think so. Like we're consumed by success, but then success consumes us. Alcohol consumes us. It's not, is it the other way around? Do we consume alcohol or does alcohol consume us? And I think it's the same with success. We feel,
Well, I
okay,
suppose that's a perspective of where the power is.
yeah,
Is the power in the substance, or is the power in me and my choice?
exactly. You're giving the power to a substance to make you feel good. You're not getting that dopamine hit from like looking at your bank balance necessarily anymore. There's the hedonic adaptability thing to that, yeah. And really, it's like there is a void that needs to be, you know, hit with some dopamine, and then everything becomes a bit more sense until the next morning, and you wake up feeling a bit more empty, and it becomes a vicious circle, you know, vicious circle where people, or guys especially, they don't tend to talk about it, do they? We don't tend to talk about like I'm successful, I can't show any weakness. I can't show the weakness. It just you get on with it, go again. Maybe you're drinking every day, man. Who knows? You know? I find with like I'm living on a pretty successful, exclusive island where there's a lot of money, super wealthy people, and consumption of alcohol is always just breathtaking to me at the highest levels. Like, why are you drinking so much? And I
Do
think
you ask this question to
I
some of those
do,
people? I'm
I
just
do,
so
yeah.
interested in this.
I do. Like I met one client this morning, and he was like, I said, "How did you enjoy the comedy last night?" He was like, "I had a sober night." I'm like, "Is that an exception?" Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow, whoa. Oh, yeah, you were proud. I'm like, why don't you take that pride into tonight and tomorrow morning and keep it going? You know what I mean? What is it? I think at the end of the day, that if you're hoarding your mental wellness and all those thoughts in your head, then you're going to be minding your money. And I don't see the service. I don't see like how you're helping other people. I don't see that you're giving back. You know, wealth isn't supposed to be hoarded. It's energy. You can't mind the sun. You can't hold the wind. It's energy. It's money is energy. So like you got to be helping people. I think that's where a lot of guys get stuck. Is like they can't help themselves because they can't help other people. But if they help other people, they help themselves. My cousin was a firefighter in Boston. He saw a lot of shit, but he always said to me, "If you're feeling down, man, if you're feeling depressed, just go out there and find someone that is worse off and help them. You won't be depressed for long."
Yes, the idea that we're to live lives of service.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the whole thing, isn't it? Isn't that the whole thing about money? That you can help people, you can educate people, can offer a helping hand. You know, do you ever see that movie, that show, TV show, The Boss, where the boss goes in undercover and he has no idea what's happening in his business, and then he starts handing out, you know, 5 grand here and 10 grand there to his employees that are like blowing his mind, doing the work to create his
Wow.
business. Yeah. And then there's all this tears and there's all this like, but how come you knew nothing about your business in the first place? How come you're only helping people now when you're living on your private estate on the waterfront in California or wherever, flying on your private jets while your workers struggle to make ends meet? So I think we've lost that sense of community. There's a huge disconnection from people. You know, that saying, "Good fence makes a good neighbor." Is that really like? Is that a myth? You know, I wonder about that. Like, when's the last time you called home to a neighbor? It's not something that's done anymore. Yeah, I think we just need to open up.
What do you think that is? Why are we so disconnected?
I think we get into minding our stuff, you know, it's mine.
Just so much of our life feels like we have to put so much energy in to keep it up, and so there's no time.
And yeah, maybe you're kind of afraid someone will take something from you. Could be something really small, but it's like it's this connection. I don't know. Like I can see it like in my travels. I was in Ireland. I can see it in Italy. I can see it in France. People are becoming less connected, and it's affecting us, man. You know that expression. What is it? It takes a village to raise a child.
I've heard that.
Yeah. So who can we trust? I think this connection comes from a lack of, I suppose, a mistrust, really. Who can we trust? We've kind of isolated ourselves from people. And I see it here all the time on the cocktail party circuit. It's like, put on the mask, be friendly. The next day, they don't even recognize who you are. I was talking to you last night. So, yeah, look, the disconnection, I think, is something we need to address, really. I think, like, meet every Saturday morning here with like 8 to 10 guys, or however many guys show up on a Saturday morning, men's support group. And we just talk about where we're at. We score our week out of 10. We talk about what we've been through. Guys are very open, very vulnerable, going through breakups, going through family issues, going through moves across the country, whatever it is. And everyone gets so much from it. Just like 60 minutes of just being open and connected with, for me, you look around the room, you have so much in common with every one of them, but you would say, I would never be regularly friends with these guys, but here we are, talking openly and bonding. I think there's serious lack of bonding on a non-alcoholic level.
What do you, from the brothers that are gathering with you on Saturdays, what do you think have been some of the shifts that they've made in their own lives? Like, what's the benefit for them by coming to this space and being held by their brothers and being able to get honest reflections? Like, how has it changed them?
I think it helps them to recognize that their standards are not high enough, appreciate the support, the love, the affection from other guys in a very healthy, non-threatening way. See that they're not alone. Everyone's going through some issue that we've all gone through. And the fact that you can support guys, strangers, support guys with your experience, with your resources, with your knowledge, with your wisdom is very powerful, And I think for me, really the biggest takeaway from this for guys is that they can offer a hand, you know. There is support that they can give. So I think guys struggle with that, they don't think that they have necessarily something to give.
Interesting. So they're not seeing the value that they have and feeling like, hey, what can I contribute? You know,
Absolutely.
who am I've got nothing to give.
Exactly. Yeah. It's very powerful, man. It really is, one of the guys left maybe 3 weeks ago, moved back to California. One of the guys offered up his house for breakfast that morning. We hung out for 3, 4 hours. And I tell you, like, it was very hard to leave. Once you open the can, it's hard to shut guys up, man. That's the remarkable thing, I did a reset weekend with an ex-MMA fighter a few weeks back on Cape Cod. We had 5 guys come in, and they were all cagey and a bit like, what's going on at the start of the day, but like 8 o'clock in the morning, by 10 o'clock that night, they were like, we were like, "Why will these guys ever shut up?" And yeah,
Once the defenses came down, they were able to see
and like,
each other.
exactly, and the connections, commonalities, like they all had with each other, same taste, the same problems, the same. It's like they all thought that their mental disorder was customized specifically to them. But we're all going through the same shit, and that was the biggest takeaway for some of these guys. They were just, what? You're going through the same thing? Wow.
Well, yeah. So there was some. I do feel like they felt like they were more understood.
They felt really good to express themselves in ways that other guys understood and clicked with, So I'm sure you find the same, man. When you talk to guys that when it dawns on them that they're not alone, that they see other guys going through the same things, like you can see it. You can almost see the change in their demeanor. Fascinating. It really is fascinating, man. Guys are like the new women. Pretty soon, it's not going to be too far away. Guys are going to be very open with this.
One would hope that's why we keep doing the work that we're doing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's compelling. It's magnetic. It's like there's no way we can pull ourselves away from this, man. We're the pioneers here. Yeah, yeah. Like it's a new dimension. The Wild West in our own heads. Got to tame our own heads, man.
There are specific practices. Let's say a brother is listening to this and he's not really ready to come be in one of your circles or be in my powerful and sovereign men's group. There's some practices to help them begin to do this work and cultivate this awareness on their own from your perspective.
Yeah, I like to give them exercises in triggers, patterns, buttons. I talked to a guy maybe a month ago, 74. Probably married 40 years, and he was explaining that, usually I'd call around to his house and we'd have a chat, but like he said, let's meet at a coffee shop. Obviously, he was having a fight with his wife, and he was saying that he had not done this, and she reacted like that. And I was saying, well, if you had changed that, how would she have reacted? Would she have reacted differently? Would she have reacted at all? And where would you be right now instead of talking to me? Would you be off having dinner and a glass of wine or a walk on the beach at sunset? And he was like, I never thought of it like that. Like, that's a guy that's a grandfather, that's still learning about himself and making his life unnecessarily hard. That's what we do. That's what we do really well. We don't fully grasp the fact that we can actually make our lives a lot simpler. We always hear about, oh, he never took out the trash or these kind of things, but like, what if you did take out the trash? He would never say that. That's triggers. And like, I think that kind of moves right into like values, which no guys don't think about their values. So triggers, patterns, buttons, and what makes you angry? What's the thing that makes you the angriest? That's usually like when someone tramples all over your like core value. So I don't think guys really see the light until they see that. And that's like on that retreat in on the Cape. For me, that was the thing that really resonated with these guys. The patterns, the buttons that they just kept on unconsciously pushing, Me, I was the same, man, like I would visit my parents in Ireland, you know. I was living in Ireland, maybe an hour away. I would visit them, take my mother over for coffee, come home, drop her home and say, okay, I'll see you later. Every single time. Every single time my dad would say, before you go there, would you cut the grass? And I'd be like, I'd react the same way. But it never dawned on me like I should have just cut the grass first and then gone for a coffee and then it would have been like plain sailing. But we played that game of tag for years and years and years and years and kept on playing that game until it was after he died that I thought of that. It's like, what was I thinking? What were we thinking? But that was the pattern. So just getting guys to recognize that and then like giving them a worksheet to go a bit deeper. So make
Yeah,
it.
there's some gold in those triggers.
There
There's
really,
something there to look at.
there
What a
really is.
blessing.
It really is, and that comes back to the awareness, So, and again, like acceptance is vital in that too, Like I go through like a series of breakups with girls, and I'd be like, "Ugh, they all say the same. Why do they all say the same thing when we break up? Why do the breakups always seem so similar? Why are women the same? All women are the same, but like it's like driving down the road and everyone's on the road is an asshole until you look in the mirror and you say, hold on a minute, maybe I'm the asshole. And then you think, oh, okay, why were these all these women saying, what was the common denominator? Me. And then you have a better look at it and say, okay, yeah, I did this, I did that. I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have done that. So yeah, there is gold in the triggers, man, in the buttons. Especially when you don't trigger those buttons anymore, you don't push them. Life becomes a whole lot easier, simpler, more fun. It's less crap going on in our head, less hoarding of the triggers. I think for a lot of us, really, we're hoarding kind of bad, kind of negative stuff like the triggers and the buttons and stuff, patterns, that just become normal. It just becomes a life sentence. It just becomes a decision we made that worked once and like, the 100 times since it hasn't worked, but we still live by it. What are we doing? That's just the way I am. No, man. That's just the way you accept you are. You don't have to accept it. I think for me, the work really starts when guys accept that they can't change.
Personality is malleable. There's no age in which you aren't able to change who
No,
you are.
absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, that guy in his 70s, I'm sure he had he went to Ireland actually for 3 weeks, and I'm sure he had a much better trip thinking about patterns and triggers, So yeah, it's never too late. And if you're making a change when you're 74, like you don't remember the previous 50 odd years or whatever of that pattern. You only remember like how life is easier from then on. It's remarkable. Guys get stuck in the pattern of making life difficult. Maybe women are right. We have to like think about that, man. Maybe women are right. Not all the time, but like if they were right a lot of the time, then how do
Yeah, well, I think that it would be really useful for more men to listen to the reflections of women and not necessarily adopting it as absolute truth, but rather what's in this for me to look at. I'm not going to rage against it. I'm not going to prove that I'm right and she's wrong, but rather what's in this for me to look at.
Absolutely. We tend to run from, like when you get into a bad breakup and there's the character assassination phase. There's a lot of truth in that. You gotta, like, you don't have to believe every word of it, but, if you can take some of that on, then you're growing. Yeah, look, I've had a lot of breakups in the last few years, a lot of character assassinations, and you do learn a lot about yourself, man, because, this person has been your second shadow. She's listened to all your stories. She's got inside your head. She knows you better than most people. So, the parting shot, it's not always fatal. There's a lot to be learned, man. There's a lot to be learned. And I think we just have to remember that as guys. We stop learning a bit. What do you think?
I think that as long as we are in a body, we're a student.
Absolutely.
And if that was the way we choose to embrace our lives, then what could be possible?
No limits, is there? Why do we limit ourselves?
Well, I think a lot comes from our conditioning early on. We're, at least speaking from my own experience, I was raised by parents who, God bless them, were doing the best they could with what they knew. They were just parroting all of the limiting beliefs that they had learned from when they were young. And then we look around, everybody else is saying the same limitations, and we just think this is what reality is, right? But some of the ancient sages would be pointing towards the limitlessness of our reality, and the new science in quantum physics points towards possibility. And so I think that that's where we should be aiming. What could be created in our lives?
Yeah.
We quantum physics says there's an unlimited number of potential realities exist. Our conditioning comes in and says, here's my tiny little slice of reality of what could be. And we're missing a whole realm of potential human experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also feel that this is the reason going inward into our depths is the answer to that, because we get to taste a little slice of our limitlessness every time we get into that space.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
If we compound that over a year's time, 3 years' time, 5 years' time, what would that look like? Who would we have become in that process?
Yeah. It's not that you have to create that 3-year plan or the 5-year plan. It's like just do the work and watch what happens, but do the work every day. Like Dan Martell says, got 5 daily non-negotiables. Live by that. We see where you are in 12 months' time. Life is pretty simple, really, when we think about it. Everything is possible. We say it, but we don't actually mean it or believe it. Anything is possible, as if like it's believe it or not.
Yeah. Or everything is possible for everyone else, but not me. Here's my story. Let me just tell you why.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you hit on the kernel of the problem. It's story, man. It really is story. It's like, how do you crack people out of their story? It's their Netflix special, every day. Starts at the same time, finishes at the same time. Yeah, story. I think like as Ireland is very much based on storytelling. The whole narrative is a story. Might not never be true, but like it's story. Story is the basis of communication. And the last word is the most important one. So it's a battle to get that last word, which makes life very interesting because you have to be good at telling stories, but you should never be so good at believing them. I think for us guys, we believe our stories too well. Fiction, man. It's all fiction.
What if our stories were just of timeless truths? Would that be a place that we should really believe in story?
It's a good question, isn't it? Timeless truth. Yeah. Or like timeless possibilities.
Absolutely.
We've got to be broader with our brushstrokes, really, and get back to that. I don't know who wrote that book about the genius zone, but, you know, we need to go back to that, man. That shrinking genius zone and expand that again. We need to get back to, I hate to say it, man, the inner child, the inner genius. And that's where we got lost, bought into all this career and success and men need to be strong. Boys don't cry. Great song by The Cure, but
Come back down to reality. You need to be realistic.
reality is where it's at. Create your own. Create your own future. Right? It sounds like total fiction. Create your own future. I mean, most guys are like they want to create their own future, but they don't believe they can. Actually, they don't know how to, and they don't know how to ask for help. That's the beauty of the men's support group. You know, people are not afraid to offer, so people are not afraid to ask. I think that's the key to helping men. We got to get them to a point where they're not afraid to ask. How do you see it?
I think dropping the story that the definition of a strong man is one who needs to lone wolf it and see that there is power in brotherhood, there's power in authenticity, and that I think the mark of a strong man is a man who says, you know what, I don't have any idea. Being willing to admit that maybe you don't have all the answers. There are plenty of things that I have no idea about, and I'm okay with that. I'm resourceful if I really need to find something out. I know somebody that knows somebody that knows something, but I don't need to know it all.
No, knowing it all seems like an awful lot of work. How easy is it, if we think about it, how easy is it to reach out and ask for help?
Where is one to go? Where does a man listening to this podcast reach out for help? Maybe he feels like he is in isolation. Where would he go?
That is why we're doing the work. We're here, man. You know, if you think that you're alone and you're isolated and that you're going through this as the only person in the whole of history to go through it as a man, just reach out. Just reach out. We're here to listen. I love to hear these stories. I love to hear stories from guys and show guys that they are not alone. We've all gone through the pain, the misery, the rejection, the shame, the humiliation, the embarrassment, resentments, the guilt, the anger, all of these. But it's okay. You know, it's okay to come out and you know, I and embrace that four-letter word, love. You know, which maybe scares the shit out of us. I think that's what we're offering here, man. We're offering love for our fellow man, and no judgment, no criticism. Just reach out and let's talk. You know, it's as simple as that. Support is right here. Let's get on it, man.
Love that.
And look, I will say this: it's not all serious. We can have fun while we're doing it. Sounds good.
Beautiful.
So we know where to find each other. Guys know where to find us. Mr. Haines, Neil A. Murphy. We're on Instagram. It's easy, man. Just reach out. We're here to talk. We're here to listen.
I would I'd say the way to connect with me would be to go to consciousbeast.com.
Yeah.
Be conscious about how you spell conscious. And for those listening, you'll be able to connect with me in a variety of different ways and maybe deep dive a little bit more on my message. Yeah, Neil, I appreciate the conversation and the work that you're doing in the world. And for the brothers listening, yeah, there's support. It's out here.
We're here.
The brothers are rising.
We're brothers are rising, man. We're here to embrace the challenge, feel the love. Conscious Peace. I love that name, man. Fantastic.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Haynes.
Yeah, good to be with you, Neil.
Call it what you want. But as guys, there's an exciting challenge to being a man these days. And it doesn't take that much to really stand out. And look, you are not as far away from where you want to be, as you might think. Not when you can look at it from a different angle and get a better appreciation for the experience that has got you this far. You could call it a psychological cold plunge. It's time to freshen things up. Being a dynamic man. That is the challenge today.